Hey guys, welcome to the Together for Good podcast, your guide into the real and inspired marriage and life adventure that you never knew was possible. I'm Meredith Osterhaus, the daughter of your hosts, Dan and Melodie Grootman. Mom and Dad's teaching, stories, and experiences with lots of laughing mixed in will move you to make your marriage last, all while making a difference in the world around you. Are you ready? Here we go!
This is going to be a great episode as we enter into some of the different dynamics that happen in a relationship. And it all starts with me. It all starts with us, with our personality.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about one that's near and dear to our hearts, and it's especially near and dear to your hearts. The director. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, there you go. I tell you what, before we go too far, talking about the director, we mentioned on our last podcast about our friends at 1230 Media. And so we wanted to make sure that, had a few questions about, okay, so who are these guys and what is it they do and why are you telling us about them? Listen, 1230 Media produces the things, most of the time when you go to church, that maybe you don't know where they came from. Things like countdowns, things like some of the openers that you may see. They do a lot of work with other companies that do worship videos and that type of thing. But they have been such an important part of what we've done in starting out with Together for Good podcast that we just wanted to thank them publicly. So Carl and Katie Barnhill, Shelby Thomas, Steve Dirks, and all of your other folks that are on board, you really have given us a lot of confidence to do what we do. So some of you, maybe you are a pastor or you're a ministry leader and you're needing help on the ministry side as far as video, any type of media needs. Carl and his team, they're fantastic, not just with production. That's where I really want to hone in a message for them today. It's not just production. It's on the whole concept, everything that goes into it to make it be a reality.
They'll help you dream your vision of what maybe God's put before you to do.
And how to communicate the message that you have on your heart. So
and it may not even be anything that you need, but at some point someone may ask you, do you know anybody that does this kind of thing? And you say, yes, we do.
Yeah, so check out their website, 1230.media. And if nothing else, send them a message and say Dan and Melodie said hello. How about that? Okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
Now we're talking about directors,
Hey, would
right?
you please direct this podcast? Thank you, director.
Well, a quick overview for those of you who may be just jumping in here. We're really basing this out of something that goes all the way back to a guy named Hippocrates. He believed that different levels of certain fluids in our bodies controlled our personalities. Okay,
Nice.
So it's a little awkward and a little weird to talk about, but that's really what he believed. Yeah, how can we get this weird really fast? He used words like choleric and melancholy and sanguine and phlegmatic, which we've heard. They're kind of part of and they're kind of part of our everyday language now. It's my feeling melancholy and that type of thing.
True.
So we're using some different words that I've borrowed from Tony Alessandra. If you need a great work, his work on personalities is just fantastic. I highly recommend it. But he uses the terms director, thinker, relator, and socializer. And these are all based upon two different continuums. Are you more task-focused or are you more people-focused? Are you more direct or are you more reserved, more measured? And based upon that, we all kind of fall into one of these quadrants. We have, I'm going to call it primary, and then we also have a secondary. So for context, if you were to put a dot on here for me, I am almost like right there. If you were to do a dot for Melodie, it's somewhere over here. For those of you that are listening in, we're looking at this scale. I'm high socializer and director. I'm very direct, but I split between the task focused and people focused. Melodie is super, super people focused. Now, she's not overly reserved and measured. She can be pretty direct too, but she doesn't like the conflict. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm going all the way over here. So if there were some phrases you're going to use for each of these temperaments, for a director, you would say, it must be finished. They need it to be over. They need it to come to a conclusion. For the thinker, it must be flawless. They want it to be correct. They want it to be right. For the relator, it must be friendly. They need it to be relational. And for the socializer, it needs to be fun. They need to be seen, appreciated, and noticed. Okay? So that's a quick overview. Today we're focused on the director, and here's what we're really wanting to do is not just make sure we understand who the director is and are you a director, but once you kind of get a sense of that, how do you as a director best engage with each of the other different temperaments? Because what we've seen so often is when someone identifies themselves on this scale, they begin to say, well, that's just who I am. That's the way I roll, right? I mean, it almost becomes an excuse. And we want to get you out of that. Instead of, this is the way I am, I want to lean into who you are to give you what you need so that I can best serve you well. Our theme verse for this entire study is Ephesians 5:21, submitting yourselves one to another. Because as I do that and I honor my spouse, it's just going to work better. So,
and I would even say, Dan, that there are some blind spots that we all have
100%.
according to whatever our temperament is.
Yep.
So me as a relator, I have some blind spots of like, oh, when I do that, you feel,
Yep.
when I say that, it makes you question things that I'm not aware of, maybe, or maybe I am, and I just need to work on it a little bit. But what are some blind spots? We're going to talk about that a little bit today, about how you can love the other temperaments.
So you can describe me here. I'm going to just put these up, Melody, and you can kind of walk through. What are these different, if you will, attributes we see in the director?
Right. I would say some of these, and I'll say them out loud for those of you who are just listening. Let me read them first. Dominate or dominant, either one. Motivated, achiever, controlling, and demanding.
Now,
some of those,
some of those are positive. Some
I was
are
going to
more
say some of
can be
those,
negative.
no matter how you spin them, they're not going to be positive. But some of these things that maybe even seem negative really have a positive counterpoint, and it's all in how are you utilizing that gift that God gave you. It would be really easy for a director to not only dominate a conversation, a socializer can dominate a conversation, but to dominate that my way is the only way. Not even just that my way is the right way. My way is the only way. There's not any, there aren't any other ideas. Highly motivated. You want to talk about a self-starter. Some people just put that on their resume because they think it sounds good or looks good. These are self-starters. These are people that they have the ideas. Achiever.
Well, they don't just have the ideas. They have the follow-up to see those ideas happen. And they won't go to bed until they do.
Absolutely, which leads into achiever.
Yep.
And I would say you as a director, you achieve just because you want to. It's not that you feel like you need to please other people. This is a big deal to you. Controlling, again, going back to dominating. That not only is my way the only way or my way is the right way, but I really need to control all the small details. I can't kind of let you find your way in some of the things. I need to be in all the details, the big and the small. And then demanding. Directors demand a lot of themselves.
Right. So therefore, they demand a lot of those that are around them.
You read my mind.
And it really can consume a lot of the oxygen in the room if you're not careful as a director. So
I heard someone one time say that those who have the director temperament, when they walk in the room, you sense that something's getting ready to happen. But it's true, though. That powerful personality, they don't even know it sometimes.
Everybody turns to look to them.
E.F. Hutton. You walk in and it's like, oh, hey.
And by the way, there's not a right temperament and a wrong temperament. I think we've said it, but we'll keep reiterating it. It's not a right or a wrong. It's just understanding who we are. And as we elevate in our self-awareness, we could be more effective at taking the positives of our temperament and mitigating some of those things that are more negative or off-putting. So how do directors effectively communicate with thinkers? Now, honestly, this is one of my most challenging temperaments to engage with. And a lot of times it's because, with a thinker, you know what they want? They want to get it done. They want to get it right. They want to have fun doing it. With a thinker, can get really focused on the minutia, right? All of the technical pieces. And I so desperately, maybe this is one of the reasons I have the struggle, I so desperately need thinkers in my life because they protect me oftentimes from myself, right? I'm, ready, fire, aim. And it can kind of be a mantra for me because it's like, let's get something done. But the thinker is the one that's making sure that we're on the right target.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
and with thinkers, you'll hear words like breath space, Sabbath. Your thinkers are going to pause. They're going to take the time to think. But that could literally drive a director crazy because it's kind of like, I want to finish your sentence. What have we done here? What's happening here?
Well, we'll breathe tomorrow. Let's,
breathe when we're dead.
Yeah. Well,
okay?
But all that said, directors, when you're engaging with thinkers, a couple of things can be really help with your communication and the relationship. Even number one, allow them time to process. When you just back up and dump information on them, they can't. They need some space to be able to process that. So give them that space. They may come to the same conclusion as you. They just don't do it as quickly as you. So allow them that space. Secondly, allow them to disagree. You may be right, director, but do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And sometimes we're so demanding to be right that we miss the part of leading people to come along with us. So in your marriage, if you're the director and you've got a thinker as your spouse, you got to give them the opportunity to push through that so that you can ultimately come to consensus. Because whether you like it or not, there always needs to be consensus before you move forward in a marriage relationship. So, yes, you may be more dominant and you may be more assertive, and that's fine, but you need to make sure you give that thinker some space to be able to process and to disagree. What about the director with the relator? I have a PhD in this one. Because
would you like to shed some light on this?
This is our space. Because with Melodie being such an off the chart relator, I've just had to learn how to navigate this. One of Melodie's spiritual gifts is sleeping. It's just the reality. To be this chipper takes a lot of rest.
That's true.
But if you're going to work well as a director with a relator, I'm going to suggest this. First of all, you need to see people first. I can tend to see task first, right? We got to do A, B, C, and D. Boom, 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 boom. And what can happen is you can roll right over people. And with that relator, that's not just that's offensive for them. So you need to be aware of that. The second one, talking about awareness, is you need to be self-aware. And for me, one of the things I've grown most in my self-awareness is my intensity. Directors can be really, really intense folks, but my intensity level can just be too hot to handle. And I have to take a log off the fire. If I don't, it's going to blow Melodie away. She's just not going to be able to hang in there with that. And remember, this isn't about getting something done. This is about having an intimate relationship, honoring
each other.
And by the way, the Melodie, we talk about attract and then attack. One of the things I loved so much about Melodie is we first got to know each other. And she's so super chill and so laid back and rolls with the punches and all of that. And you know what can drive me crazy now?
That I'm super chill.
She's so laid back and so roll with the punches.
Look alive a little.
And that's just one of the challenges of relationships, right?
Right.
So as a director, you got to pull it back. You got to know when you are just being a little too extra.
One of my favorite things that we paid $85 an hour for. Now
we will not confirm nor deny how that we know that number.
Now it would either be at least like $100.
It's going to be a whole lot more than that now.
But
that's right.
Back in the day when we paid $85 an hour, I remember them saying, check your RPMs, watch your RPMs. And we were like, ooh, that's good. So be aware.
Melodie was saying that was good. I was saying, I hate that.
I want my money back.
Yeah.
When you feel it going, okay, what do I need to do to be self-aware, to take the log off the fire? What does that look like for you? Just
think about this as well. If you're going to use the RPM analogy with a car, if you're running those RPMs too high, one of two things: either you're not being efficient, you're in the wrong gear, or number two, be careful, you're getting ready to blow a gasket. And the last thing you need to do is, because your intensity is so hot, boom, you have a blowout. It is not as difficult to get there as you might think.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that'll help with the relator. What about the director and the socializer? Now remember, these two cats are similar in the fact that they are both very direct. So you can have some pretty good knockdown dragouts with the director and the socializer if you're not careful. So as a director with the socializer, would you laugh a little bit? Everything's not intense. This is not, negotiating détente with the Russians. We can ease up. You got to laugh a little bit. And by the way, some of the best laughter you'll ever get will be at your own expense.
Good for you.
Be more self-deprecating.
Good for you.
That's something that socialize. And see, this isn't as difficult for me because if you'll remember, I'm almost a split right between the two.
Right.
So I'm ambidextrous here. I can go either way. But when I'm in director mode, I've just got to remember, man, don't take yourself so serious. You've got to dial it back on that regard.
And I would say someone who's even more fully director, these folks, I have many of them in my life, and I've noticed that these folks, the healthy directors in my life, they try to schedule opportunities for themselves and for those around them that are more frivolous.
Well, yeah.
But
just think with me for a second as it relates to the socializer. The socializer, they're a party looking for a place to happen. They are always in let's have fun mode. A matter of fact,
is their highest.
If they
priority.
Can't have fun, they're going to lose interest.
Right.
So if it ain't fun, why do it?
Right.
So if you're going to be the director engaging with the socializer, you can't just say, well, wait a minute, we scheduled fun for 5:00 in the afternoon. So go ahead and don't be afraid to have it impromptu. All right? It's okay. So laugh a little bit. That'll really be helpful. Number 2, be flexible. Listen, I read something great today. I think it was Carey Nieuwhof in his podcast. He talks about, being, time efficiency. Managing your time well is a misnomer. I agree with him.
Oh, yeah. You've said this a lot.
Well, you can't manage time. There's 168 hours in a week. You can't manage that to be more or less. What I need is more Dan management, right? So I'm all for being efficient with your time. But listen, be flexible. If you schedule, I know some people that double and triple book their day. Look at their calendars. It's unbelievable, and they're color-coded with multiple things overlapping, scheduled at the same time. I don't know why you're doing that, because it's not real. You can't be
yourself miserable and all those around you.
That's right. Hey, directors, do yourself a favor. Only book solid 80% of your day. This is free. 80% of your day. Why only 80%? Because you are going to have some times that you need to be flexible. And if you haven't scheduled that flexibility in, you're going to find yourself feeling stress. You're going to feel, frankly, grumpy. Is that a good word?
That's a really great word.
You like that word? Nobody likes a grumpy director. So be flexible. And one of the ways is don't overbook yourself. So listen, directors, you are so important. Without you,
my goodness, yes.
Without you, frankly, things don't get done.
Thank you.
And so we need you, but we need the best you, right? So, and as it relates to your marriage, engaging with your spouse, regardless of where they are in the other temperaments, it's really, really important. So before we close out today, because we're almost finished, but we need to talk about our upcoming marriage summit, and we've got another announcement to make with that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So exciting. Look, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be so great, guys. Tell them, Whispering Willows.
It's
willows that whisper. It's good.
It's a bed and breakfast that's here in the Winsboro area, which is just between Columbia and Charlotte. It's a remote area.
You feel like you've gotten far, far away, but you're still close enough.
It's a perfect spot for what we're wanting to accomplish with our marriage summit. We're able to have true conversation, true connection, and true intimacy with our spouse. And
fun.
Yes. So all of that is already lined up, April 24th through 26th. Would you send us an email if you're interested? We'll make sure that you're in the first in line to get all of the final details as they're coming together.
Because I will tell you, hundreds of people can't come to this. Eventually, one day, we hope to have an event that hundreds and thousands will come to.
Well, hundreds can't or hundreds won't.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this one we have kept incredibly intimate.
Yes, right.
So we have a certain number of couples that can come.
Yep.
So if this is something that God's kind of wrestling your spirit about, and you're like, I think maybe let us know, because
and here,
it could fill up fast.
And right now, listen, you're saying, hey, I don't even know how much this is going to cost. Can you give me a little more details? Listen, if you send us an email, wearetogetherforgood@gmail.com. Send us that email and just put Marriage Summit in the title. Need more information. As soon as we have all of those details, we'll have it in your inbox. That way you can have a plan. I really hope you'll prayerfully consider being a part of our weekend.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be amazing. I'm
we're
so
really
excited.
looking forward.
Is it April yet?
I can't talk today.
No, you can't. But the words you have said have been so good.
The Wascally
So
Wabbit.
you have really made up the times you couldn't think of.
I'm a fud. I kind of feel like I'm a fud over here.
He's continuing with the analogy, folks. He may do it the rest of the evening.
Yeah. So, hey, I hope that as you talk about the different personalities that you work through in your marriages, that you'll understand the things that attracted you to your spouse, they're still there. So just keep going and looking for them, and that way you'll be attracted and stop doing the attacking. Okay.
Ooh, good word.
Yeah. So
good
listen,
word.
until next time, thanks for being with us. Spread the word, pass it along, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We would love to stay in touch with you on that. So until next time, we hope that you are pursuing a marriage and life that's together for good.
So this week's show may be over, but the work has just begun. Be sure to check out the great resources and references mentioned in today's show in the show notes at wearetogetherforgood.com/podcast. It is also super easy to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Hey, if this podcast has been an encouragement to you in your marriage and life journey, please let the people in your world know. Help us spread the word about the Together for Good adventure by following us on our Facebook and Instagram pages. This would go a long way to help get the word out. Don't forget to check out our website, wearetogetherforgood.com, for free resources, archived podcast episodes, and other ways you can experience a life and marriage that is together for good.